Chapter 10, Concerning a Mousetrap in the 17th Century. The invention of the mousetrap is not a modern one. When, long ago, human societies, in the process of formation, invented the police invented the mousetrap. As most of our readers are still unfamiliar with the slaying of the Rue de Jerusalem, and as 15 years have elapsed since we applied the word mousetrap to the thing in question, it is perhaps pertinent to explain exactly what a mousetrap is. When in a house of any kind a person suspected of a crime has been arrested, the arrest is kept secret. 4 or 5 men are posted in ambush in the front room of the prisoner's apartment. The door is open to all who knock, but, as it closes, the visitor becomes a prisoner. Thus within 2 or 3 days almost all the habitués of the house are in the hands of the police. Such then is the mousetrap. Monsieur Benisux's residence then became a mousetrap. Whoever appeared was seized and investigated by the cardinal's men. However, as a special passage led to the 2nd floor, where D'Artagnan lodged, his callers were exempt from molestation. Besides, no one save the 3 Musketeers ever came there. They reported that they had all made careful independent investigations, but to no avail. Athos had even gone so far as to question Monsieur de Treville, a step which, in view of this worthy musketeer's usual reticence, had much surprised his captain. But Monsieur de Treville knew nothing save that the last time he had seen the cardinal, the king and the queen, the cardinal looked very anxious, the king seemed worried, and the queen's bloodshot eyes betrayed either a sleepless night or much weeping. This last circumstance was not particularly striking, for since her marriage the queen had known vigils and tears aplenty. Monsieur de Treville urged Athos scrupulously to observe his duty to the king and particularly to the queen, and to convey the same orders to his companions. As for D'Artagnan, nowadays he never stirred from his quarters. He turned his room into a sort of observatory. From the watchtower of his windows, he saw all who, entering the house, walked into the trap. He also removed a plank of the flooring and cleared enough of the foundation so that there was but a mere ceiling between him and the Inquisition room below. Thus he could hear everything that passed between the cardinal's spies and their victims. Those arrested were first submitted to a minute search of their persons. Then, almost invariably, they were asked, "Has Madame Benisux given you anything to deliver to her husband or to another party? Has Monsieur Benisux given you anything to deliver to his wife or to another party? Has either of them confided anything to you by word of mouth?" If they knew anything they would not question people in this manner. D'Artagnan mused. Now what do they want to find out? Exactly this: whether the Duke of Buckingham is in Paris and whether he has had or is due to have an interview with the Queen. This idea was constantly uppermost in D'Artagnan's mind, especially since everything he had heard seemed to confirm its probability. Meanwhile the mousetrap, and D'Artagnan's vigilance, never relaxed for a moment. On the morrow of Monsieur Benisux's arrest, late in the evening, on the stroke of 9, Athos left D'Artagnan's to call at Monsieur de Treville's. Planchet, who had not yet made the bed, was setting to work when there was a knock at the street door. The door immediately opened and closed. Someone was caught in the mousetrap. D'Artagnan leapt to his listening post and lay flat on his belly, his ear to the ground. Soon he heard cries, then moans which someone was apparently trying to stifle. Assuredly this was no mere exchange of questions and answers. Devil take it, D'Artagnan thought. It sounds like a woman. Probably, they're searching her and she's resisting. They're using force. The swine. In spite of his prudence, it was all D'Artagnan could do not to interrupt the scene. "But I tell you I am the mistress of this house, gentlemen," cried the unhappy woman. "I tell you I am Madame Benisux. I tell you I belong to the Queen." Madame Benisux, D'Artagnan murmured. "Have I found the person everyone is looking for?" "You are exactly the lady we were awaiting." The voice grew more and more indistinct, then a series of bumps shook the wainscoting. No doubt the victim was struggling as fiercely as a lone woman could struggle against four men. "Pardon, gentlemen, murmured the voice. Then it lapsed into inarticulate sounds. "They have gagged her. They are going to drag her away." D'Artagnan rose to his feet as though mechanically propelled by a spring. "My sword? Good. Here it is." "Planchet, monsieur? Go fetch Athos, Porthos and Aramis. One of the three will surely be at home. Tell them to come here at once, fully armed. Tell them to run." "Oh, I remember. Athos is at the Hotel de Treville. But where are you going, monsieur?" "I am going down through the window. It's quicker. You put back the boards, sweep the floor, go out by the front door and off to where I told you." "Oh, monsieur, you are going to get killed." "Hush, idiot," said D'Artagnan. Vaulting over the window-sill, he clung to it for a moment, then dropped without mishap to the ground, which fortunately was no very great distance. A second later, he was knocking at the street door, murmuring as he did so, "It's my turn to get caught in the mouse-trap, but God help the cats that pounce on a mouse like me." The sound of his knock brought the tumult within to an abrupt halt. Steps were heard approaching, the door opened and D'Artagnan, sword drawn, rushed into Monsieur Bonacieux's apartment. This door clicked shut upon him. Immediately the whole neighborhood heard loud cries, a stamping of many feet, a clash of swords, and a prolonged smashing of furniture. Those who, surprised at this bedlam, went to their windows to ascertain its cause, were rewarded by seeing the street door flung open again and four black-clad men emerging. These did not walk or run, they actually flew out like so many frightened crows, strewing furniture and ground with feathers from their wings, or, in other words, patches of their clothes and tatters from their cloaks. D'Artagnan emerged the victor without much effort, for only one of the officers was armed and he defended himself only for form's sake. True, the three others attempted to fell the young man with chairs, stools and crockery, but 2 or 3 scratches from the Gascon's blade terrified them. A scant 10 minutes sufficed to put them to rout, leaving D'Artagnan undisputed master of the field of battle. Such neighbors as had opened their windows with the habitual phlegm of Parisians in these times of riot and perpetual brawls, now closed them quite as phlegmatically. Seeing the 4 men in black disappear, they knew instinctively that for the moment at least the fun was over. Besides, it was growing late in those days, as today. Early to bed was the watchword in the Luxembourg quarter. Left alone with Madame Bonacieux, D'Artagnan turned toward where the poor woman lay back, deep in an armchair, half conscious. One swift glance revealed a charming woman of 25 or 26, with dark hair, blue eyes and a slightly retroussé nose, admirable teeth and a complexion marbled with rose and opal. There however ended whatever resemblance she bore to a lady of rank. Her hands were white but without delicacy. Her feet did not bespeak your lady of quality. Happily D'Artagnan was not yet acquainted with such niceties of social distinction. While he was surveying Madame Bonacieux and had, as we have said, reached her feet, he noticed a fine cambric handkerchief lying on the floor. True to habit, he picked it up. In one corner he recognized the same crest he had seen on the handkerchief which had almost caused Aramis to cut his throat. Ever since that occasion D'Artagnan looked askance at handkerchiefs with crests on them, so without a word he put this one back into Madame Bonacieux's pocket. At that moment, Madame Bonacieux recovered her senses. Opening her eyes, she cast a glance of terror about her, then realized that the apartment was empty and that she was alone with her liberator. Smiling, she stretched out her hands to him, and Madame Bonacieux had the sweetest smile in all the world. "Ah, monsieur, you saved me. Pray let me thank you." "Madame, you owe me no thanks. I did what any gentleman would have done in my place." "Oh, but I do owe you thanks, monsieur, and I hope to prove to you that you have not befriended an ingrate. But tell me, those men, I took them for robbers at first." What did they want with me? And why isn't Monsieur Benissux here? Madam, these men were far more dangerous than any robbers could be. They were agents of the Cardinal. As for your husband, he isn't here because he was picked up yesterday and taken to the Bastille. My husband in the Bastille. Oh, my God. What has he done? Poor dear man. He is innocence personified, and something like a smile fluttered over her face. What has he done? D'Artagnan echoed. I think his only crime consists in having at once the good fortune and misfortune to be your husband. But monsieur, then you know? I know that you were abducted. Madam, who did it? Monsieur? Do you know? If you do know, then please tell me who it was. You were abducted by a man 40 or 45 years old, with black hair, a swarthy complexion, and a scar on his left temple. That's right, that is the man. But his name, what is his name? Alas, madam, I do not know. Was my husband aware that I had been abducted? He received a letter telling him about it from the abductor himself. Does he suspect the reason for my abduction? Madame Benissux asked with some embarrassment. I believe he attributed it to political motives. I myself did not think so at first, but now I believe just as he does, said the young woman. Then my dear husband did not for a moment suspect me? Never for a moment, madam. He was too sure of your virtue and proud of the love you bear him. Again, an almost imperceptible smile stole over the roseate lips of the comely young woman. How did you escape? D'Artagnan asked. I took advantage of a few minutes when they left me alone. As I had known since morning why I was abducted, I was determined to escape. I knotted my bed sheets together and let myself down through the window. Then, thinking my husband would be at home, I rushed here, to put yourself under his protection. No, poor dear man, I knew quite well that he was incapable of defending me, but he could serve us in another way, so I wished to talk to him. About what? I cannot tell you that because it is not my secret. In any case, madam, though I am a guardsman, let me recall you to prudence. In any case, this is scarcely a place for an exchange of confidences. The men I put to flight will soon return with reinforcements. If they find us here, we are ruined. To be sure, I sent word to 3 of my friends, but who knows whether they can be reached. Yes, you are right. Let us fly. Let us escape. Considerably frightened, she slipped her arm through D'Artagnan's and urged him forward. But where to? D'Artagnan asked. Where shall we fly to? First let us get away from this house. Afterwards we shall see. Without bothering to close the door behind them, the young couple walked quickly down the Rue des Fossoyeurs, turned into the Rue des Fosses Monsieur le Prince, and did not stop until they reached the place Saint-Sulpice. Now what shall we do? D'Artagnan asked. To what address may I have the honor of accompanying you? I must own I am at a loss how to answer, she told him. I intended to have my husband go to Monsieur de la Porte to ascertain what has been happening at the Louvre for the last 3 days and whether I could safely go back there. Surely I can go to Monsieur de la Porte. Perhaps so. Still there is one drawback. They know Monsieur Benissux at the Louvre, so they would let him pass. They do not know you. But surely there must be a concierge or doorman at some wicket of the Louvre who is devoted to you and thanks to a password. Madame Benissux looked earnestly at the young man. Suppose I give you this password, will you promise to forget it as soon as you have used it? I promise on my word of honor and on my faith as a gentleman, said D'Artagnan in accents too fervent to leave room for any doubt as to his sincerity. I believe you. You appear to be an honorable man. Besides, your services might well make your fortune. Without thought of reward, I shall do all I can to serve the kingdom, to be useful to the queen. Pray believe me your friend. But where shall I go meanwhile? Is there nobody who can put you in touch with Monsieur de la Porte? I dare not trust anyone. I have it. We are but a few steps from where Athos lives. Yes, That's it. Who is Athos? One of my friends. But what if he is at home? What if he should see me? He is not at home. I shall lock you in and take the key away with me. Suppose he returns? He will not return. Even if he did, he would be told that I brought a lady there and that she was in his apartment. Of course you realize how compromising that will be. What matter? Nobody knows you. In a desperate situation like ours, we can afford to overlook a few social conventions. Let us go to your friend's house. Where does he live? Rue Frou, just around the corner. As D'Artagnan had foreseen, Athos was out. D'Artagnan picked up the key, which was always given him, and introduced Madame Bonacieux into the little apartment. "Make yourself at home," he said. "Stay here, bolt the door and let no one in unless you hear 3 raps. So, 2 fairly hard raps, close together, and after an interval, a 3rd rap, much lighter. Good. Now may I give you your instructions? I am all attention. When you reach the Louvre, go in at the wicket by the Rue d'Olchel and ask for Germain." "Yes?" "When Germain asks you what you want, say 2 words, Tours and Brussels. Immediately he will place himself at your orders." "What shall I tell him to do?" "Tell him to fetch Monsieur de Laporte, valet to Her Majesty, and when he has fetched him, you will ask Monsieur de Laporte to come here to me." "That offers no difficulty. But what? But where and how shall I see you again?" "Do you wish very much to see me again?" "Certainly. Then you may count on me. Meanwhile, do not fret. I depend on your word." "You may do so unreservedly." D'Artagnan bowed to Madame Bonacieux, darting the most loving glance he could possibly concentrate upon her petite, slight person. As he was starting down the stairs he heard the door being closed, double-locked and bolted. In 2 bounds he reached the Louvre. As he entered the wicket at the Rue d'Olchel, the clock struck 10. The whole drama we have described took place within just 1/2 hour. Everything happened just as Madame Bonacieux had indicated. At the given password, Germain bowed. 10 minutes later, Monsieur de Laporte was at the porter's lodge. In 2 words D'Artagnan informed him of everything including the whereabouts of Madame Bonacieux. Laporte made sure of the address where his godchild waited. Then he left at a run, but he had not taken 10 steps before he hastened back. "Young man, let me give you a piece of advice." "What?" "You may get into trouble because of what has just happened." "Really?" "Yes. Have you by any chance some friend whose clock runs too slow?" "Monsieur, go call on him. Let him testify that you were at his house at 9:30. In a court of justice that is what we call an alibi." D'Artagnan, finding this counsel prudent, hurried off to Monsieur de Treville's, but instead of going into the reception room with the rest of the crowd, he asked to be shown into the captain's study. As he frequented the hotel so assiduously, his request was granted. Monsieur de Treville was informed that his young compatriot, having something important to communicate, solicited a private audience. 5 minutes later, Monsieur de Treville was asking D'Artagnan what he could do to be of service and what occasioned a visit at so late an hour. "I beg your pardon, monsieur. I did not think 25 minutes past 9 was too late to wait upon you." Left alone to wait for the captain, he had of course turned back. Monsieur de Treville's clock 3/4 of an hour. 25 past 9, cried Monsieur de Treville, looking at his clock. "But that's impossible. Clocks don't lie, monsieur." "That's true, but I would have thought it was much later." "Well, tell me what I can do for you." D'Artagnan proceeded to spin Monsieur de Treville a long yarn about the Queen. He voiced the fears he entertained with respect to Her Majesty. He repeated what he had heard about the Cardinal's plans with regard to Buckingham, carrying the whole thing off with such calm and such candor that Monsieur de Treville was duped the more easily because he had himself noticed some fresh trouble brewing between Cardinal, King and Queen. As Monsieur de Treville's clock struck 10, D'Artagnan took his leave, thanking him for the information he had brought, The captain of Musketeers urged him always to keep the service of king and queen at heart. At the foot of the staircase, D'Artagnan suddenly remembered that he had forgotten his cane. He therefore ran upstairs again, returned to Monsieur de Treville's office, and, with a turn of the finger, set the clock right again so that on the morrow no one would know it had been tampered with. Then, certain that he had secured a witness to prove his alibi, he sauntered downstairs and found himself in the street. Chapter 11, in which the plot thickens. Having paid his visit to Monsieur de Treville, D'Artagnan, deep in thought, took the longest possible way homeward. And of what was he meditating as he strayed from his path, gazed at the stars, and found himself now sighing, now smiling? He was thinking of Madame Benasuc's. To an apprentice musketeer, she represented virtually the ideal of love. Pretty, mysterious, privy to almost all the secrets of the court, her delicate features reflecting such charming gravity, she might be supposed not entirely indifferent to him. So fond of hope acts like an irresistible magnet to novices in love. Moreover, D'Artagnan had delivered her out of the hands of the demons who had sought to violate her privacy and do her bodily harm. Did not this important service establish a bond of gratitude which might well assume a more tender character? How swiftly our dreams soar on the wings of imagination! Already D'Artagnan saw himself being accosted by a messenger from the young woman and receiving from his hands a note appointing a meeting or a gold chain or a diamond even. As we have seen, young cavaliers accepted presents from their king without shame, and in that period of easy morals, they were no more delicate with regard to their mistresses. Invariably the ladies left them some valuable and lasting token of their affection, as though they were attempting to conquer the fragility of masculine sentiments by the solidity of feminine gifts. Men unblushingly made their way in the world thanks to the largesse of women. Those women whose sole assets consisted in their beauty made a glad gift of that, whence doubtless the proverb, la plus belle fille du monde n'y peut donner qu'est coulée. The fairest maid in the world can give no more than what she has. But those who were rich gave a part of their money as well, and many a hero of that gallant period would neither have won his spurs in the first place nor his battles afterward were it not for the purse his mistress fastened to his saddle bow. D'Artagnan possessed nothing. The bashfulness of your provincial, that slight patina, that ephemeral blossom, that down on a peach, soon evaporated before the blasts of scarcely orthodox advice the three musketeers offered their friend. D'Artagnan, following the strange customs of the times, considered himself fighting the campaign of Paris, just as though he were on active service on the battlefield. On the Flanders front, the Spaniard; on the Paris front, woman; in either place an enemy to contend with and contributions to be levied. In all justice to D'Artagnan it must be added that at this moment he was moved by nobler and more generous sentiments. When the haberdasher confessed to being a wealthy man, D'Artagnan concluded that, Benasuc's being the ninny he was, Madame probably held the purse strings, but this in no wise influenced the feelings that swept over him the moment he saw her. Mercenary calculations entered almost not at all into his awakening love. We say almost not at all because the idea of a youthful, comely, graceful and intelligent woman being rich into the bargain, far from detracting from incipient love, serves on the contrary to intensify it. Affluence provides a host of little amenities and frills which prove most becoming to a beauty. Shapely slippers on her feet, white stockings of sheer material, a silk dress, a lace skimpy and a dainty ribbon in her hair do not make an ugly woman pretty, but they do make a pretty woman beautiful. And a woman's hands especially. What wonders money can do for women by sparing them from working. Truly, to be beautiful, a woman's hands must be idle. As we have not concealed the state of D'Artagnan's fortune, The reader well knows that he was no millionaire. To be sure, he hoped to become one someday, but the date set in his own mind for this happy change was still far distant. Meanwhile, how painful to see the woman one loves longing for those myriad trifles that constitute feminine happiness, and to be unable to satisfy her wants. When a woman is rich and her lover is not, she can at least buy what her lover cannot afford to give her. She usually gratifies these indulgences with her husband's money and without thanks to him. D'Artagnan, eager to become the most passionate of lovers, was already her devoted friend. Amid his amorous designs upon the haberdasher's wife, he did not forget his comrades. The comely Madame Benissux was just the woman to stroll on his arm in the plain Saint Denis or through the fair of Saint Germain with Athos, Porthos and Aramis for company. How proud D'Artagnan would be to display such a conquest. Now when people have walked any length of time, they get quite hungry, as D'Artagnan had himself noticed. So D'Artagnan, his inamorata and his comrades, their stroll done, would enjoy charming little dinners at which he visualized himself pressing the hand of a loyal friend on one side, and, on the other, the foot of an adoring mistress, and, were his friends out of funds, he saw himself as their financial savior. What about Monsieur Benissux, whom D'Artagnan had delivered into the hands of the officers, betraying him publicly after his private promises to save him? It must be confessed that D'Artagnan did not vouchsafe him a thought, or, if he did, he decided that the haberdasher was in the proper place, wherever it was. Is not love the most selfish of all passions? Let our readers reassure themselves. If D'Artagnan forgot or feigned to forget his landlord, pretending not to know whither the wretched man had been carried away, we have not forgotten him and we know where he is. But for the moment let us do as the amorous Gascon did. Presently our worthy haberdasher will reappear, dreaming of his future amours, apostrophizing the night and gazing at the stars. D'Artagnan was returning up the Rue du Church-Midi, or rather Chasse-Midi as it was then called. As Aramis lived in this quarter, he suddenly thought he would pay Aramis a visit to explain why he had dispatched Planchet to him with immediate orders to rush to the mousetrap. If Aramis was at home when Planchet arrived, D'Artagnan said, he must have gone straight to the Rue des Fossoyeurs. There he would have found no one, or at best Athos and Porthos, so all three are in complete ignorance of what has happened. I owe them at least an explanation for having disturbed them. Thus he spoke aloud, but silently. To himself, he thought that a visit to Aramis offered him a chance of talking about pretty little Madame Benissux, who at this point filled his head if not his heart. To look for discretion in a first love is irrelevant. First loves are accompanied by a joy so excessive that it must be allowed to overflow or it will stifle a man. For the past 2 hours Paris had been swathed in darkness and the streets were practically deserted. 11 o'clock struck from all the clocks of the Faubourg Saint-Germain. The night was mild. D'Artagnan passed down a lane which is now the Rue d'Assas. From the Rue de Vaugirard came the cool fragrance of the Luxembourg Gardens, freshened by the dews of evening and the breeze of night. Gratefully D'Artagnan breathed in the redolence of flower and grass and tree. Afar, muffled by stout shutters, echoes of drinking songs floated out from taverns scattered across the plain. At the foot of the lane, D'Artagnan turned to the left. Aramis lived between the Rue Cassette and the Rue Servandoni. D'Artagnan had just passed the Rue Cassette and could see the door of his friend's house, nestling under a clump of sycamores and clematis that formed a vast leafy arch above. Suddenly a shadow-like form issued from the Rue Servandoni. That form was wrapped up in a cloak, and D'Artagnan first thought it was a man, but the slenderness of the figure, the hesitancy of the gait and the insecurity of the steps convinced him that it was a woman. As if uncertain of the house she sought, she kept looking up to get her bearings, stopped, retraced her steps, and once again approached. D'Artagnan was seized with curiosity. "Shall I go offer my services?" he wondered. Judging by her step, I would say she was young. Perhaps she is pretty, yes. But a woman scarcely ventures on the streets at this hour unless she is going to meet her lover. A pox on it. To disturb a lover's rendezvous is no way to begin an acquaintance. Meanwhile the young woman kept coming forward, counting the houses and the windows. This was neither long nor difficult, for there were but 3 houses in that part of the street and only 2 windows looking out upon it, one in a pavilion parallel to that of Aramis, the other in the pavilion Aramis occupied. "Pardieu," said D'Artagnan to himself as he recalled the theologian's niece. "Pardieu, how droll if this belated dove were bound for my friend's house. Upon my soul, it looks very much like it. Ah, my dear Aramis, this time my curiosity shall be satisfied." And he drew back, making himself as thin as possible, as he took his stand on the darkest side of the street near a stone bench set in a niche. The young woman continued to advance, betraying herself not only by her light step but also by a soft cough. A signal, thought D'Artagnan, which suggested a sweet voice. Either a corresponding signal settled the doubts of the nocturnal adventurers, or she needed no aid to recognize that she had reached the end of her journey. At all events, she stepped resolutely forward and, with finger crooked, rapped 3 times, at equal intervals, on the Musketeers' shutter. "It is Aramis," D'Artagnan murmured. "Ha, Monsieur Hypocrite! This time I've caught you studying theology." Scarcely was the rapping done when the window opened and a light appeared through the slats of the shutter. "Aha," said Arquinunc, "the pretty caller was expected. There, the shutters will open in a minute and the lady will climb over the window sill, entering by escalade, to use a technical term. Very neat indeed." To his vast astonishment, however, the shutter remained closed. The light that had shone for a moment disappeared, and once again darkness reigned. D'Artagnan, sensing that this could not last long, kept his eyes peeled and his ears pricked up for the next move. He was right. After a few seconds 2 sharp raps were heard inside. The young woman in the street replied by a single rap and the shutter opened ever so slightly. The reader may judge with what avidity D'Artagnan looked and listened. Unfortunately the light had been moved into another room, but his eyes were accustomed to the night. And besides, according to report, the eyes of the Gascons, like those of cats, possess the faculty of seeing through the dark. The young woman drew a white object from her pocket and unfolded it quickly into the shape of a handkerchief, then drew her interlocutor's attention to one corner of it. D'Artagnan suddenly recalled the handkerchief he had found at Madame Bonacieux's feet, which in turn reminded him of the one he had pulled out from under the feet of Aramis. What in the devil's name could this handkerchief mean to these people? From his point of vantage, D'Artagnan could not distinguish Aramis, but he felt certain it was his friend within conversing with a lady without. Curiosity prevailed over prudence. Making the most of the couple's preoccupation over the handkerchief, he emerged from his hiding place and, swift as lightning but stepping with the utmost caution, flattened himself against an angle of the wall, whence he could see into the room Aramis occupied. Looking in, he almost cried out, so great was his surprise. It was not with Aramis the midnight visitor was conversing but with another woman. He perceived her clearly enough to recognize the clothes she wore, but he could not make out her features. The woman inside now drew a handkerchief from her pocket and exchanged it for the one the visitor had shown her. The 2 women spoke a few words more and presently the shutter was closed. The visitor turned back and passed within 4 steps of D'Artagnan, lowering the hood of her mantle. But her precaution was too late. D'Artagnan had recognized Madame Bonacieux. Already when he had seen her draw the handkerchief from her pocket a suspicion had flashed through his mind, but he dismissed it. After all, was it likely that Madame Bonacieux, having sent for Monsieur de Laporte to conduct her back to the Louvre, would be running about the streets of Paris alone at 11:30 at night at the risk of being abducted a second time? Her errand must be one of immense importance. And what is the most important errand for a woman of 25? Love. Was she exposing herself to such hazards on her own account or for the sake of somebody else? There, thought D'Artagnan, lay the whole problem as the demon of jealousy gnawed at his heart bitterly as though he were already her accepted lover. Well, there was a very simple means of finding out where Madame Bonacieux was going. He need but follow her. Seeing the young man as he detached himself from the wall like a statue walking out of its niche and hearing his footsteps resound so near her, Madame Bonacieux uttered a little cry and fled. D'Artagnan, running after her, had no difficulty in overtaking a woman burdened by a long, heavy cloak. He came abreast of her before she was 1/3 of the way down the street. The unfortunate woman was exhausted not by fatigue but by terror, and when D'Artagnan laid his hand on her shoulder, she fell to one knee and cried in a choking voice, "Kill me if you like, I shall not tell you anything." D'Artagnan slipped his arm around her waist and drew her to her feet. As he felt that she was about to faint, he hastily comforted her by protestations of devotion. Such protestations meant nothing to Madame Bonacieux, for a person might make them while harboring the most evil intentions in the world, but the voice that uttered them meant everything to her. Despite her confusion, she thought she recognized that voice. She opened her eyes, cast a glance at the man who had terrified her, and recognizing D'Artagnan, gave a cry of joy. "Oh, it is you. Thank God. Thank God. Yes, it is I, whom God has sent to watch over you. Was that why you followed me?" The moment she recognized her supposed enemy to be a friend, all her fears vanished. She flashed him a coquettish smile. "No," D'Artagnan told her, "I must confess it was chance threw me in your way. I saw a woman tapping at the window of one of my friends." "Of one of your friends?" "Certainly. Aramis is one of my best friends." "Aramis? Who is he?" Come. You're not telling me you don't know Aramis?" "This is the first time I have ever heard his name." "And I suppose it is the first time you ever went to his house?" "Assuredly." "And you did not know that a young man lived there?" "A musketeer?" "No, indeed. So you weren't looking for Aramis?" "Absolutely not. Besides, as you saw, I was talking to a woman." "That is quite true, but the woman is probably a friend of Aramis." "I don't know anything about that." "She must be if she lives in his apartment." "That is none of my business, but who is she?" "Oh, that is not my secret, my dear Madame Bonacieux. You are the most attractive and the most mysterious of women." "Is what you call my mystery a handicap?" "On the contrary, you are adorable." "Give me your arm, then." "Gladly. And now escort me. I have a call to make." Where I am going." "But where are you going?" "You will see, because I shall ask you to leave me at the door." "Shall I wait for you?" "That will be unnecessary." "Will you come back from there unaccompanied?" "Maybe yes. Maybe number." "Will the person accompanying you be a man or a woman?" "I don't know yet." "I shall find out." "How?" "I shall wait until you come out." "In that case, goodbye." "Why so?" "I do not need you." "But you asked me to." "I asked a gentleman to aid me, not a spy to shadow me." "The word spy is a harsh one." "What do you call a man who trails people against their will?" "I call him indiscreet." "The word indiscreet is too mild." "Well, madam, I see I must do as you wish." "Why did you forego the merit of doing so at once?" "Is there no merit in repentance?" "Are you really repentant?" "Frankly, I scarce know if I am or not, but this I do know. I promise to do whatever you wish if you will allow me to accompany you where you are going." "And you will leave me afterward?" "Yes." "Without waiting for me to come out again?" "Yes." "On your word of honor?" "By my faith as a gentleman." "Take my arm and let us go." Half laughing, half trembling, she slipped her arm through his and together they strolled up the Rue de la Harpe. Reaching the end of the street, the young woman appeared to hesitate. just as she had done in the Rue de Vaugirard. Yet she seemed by certain signs to recognize a particular door and, going toward it, "Now, monsieur," she said, "this is where I have business to do. 1,000 thanks for your honorable company. It has saved me from all the dangers I would have faced had I come alone. But now I have reached my destination. The time has come for you to keep your word, and you will have nothing to fear on your way home." "I shall have nothing to fear but robbers." "And are robbers nothing? What could they take? I haven't a sou on me." "You forget that beautiful embroidered handkerchief with the crest in the corner." "What handkerchief?" "The one I found at your feet and put back into your pocket." "Hush, hold your tongue, man. You must be mad to be so foolhardy. Do you wish to destroy me? You see, you are still in danger since a single word makes you tremble, and you admit you would be ruined if anyone heard me saying it." "Oh, come, madam, please," he cried, seizing her hands and gazing ardently into her eyes. "Please be more generous, confide in me. Can you not see by my eyes that my heart is filled with sympathy and devotion?" "Truly, I can. Ask me my own secrets and I shall hold nothing back. But you are asking me to divulge the secrets of others, which is a very different matter." "No matter. I shall discover them. Since these secrets may have an influence over your life, they must become my secrets too. Beware of doing anything of the sort." The young woman replied so earnestly that D'Artagnan gave an involuntary start. "Please, please do not meddle in anything that concerns me. Please do not seek to aid me in what I am accomplishing. I ask you this in the name of the interest I have inspired in you and in the name of the service you rendered me, which I shall never forget. Rather, believe everything that I have told you. Do not bother about me. I no longer exist for you. It is as though you had never laid eyes on me." "Must Aramis do so likewise?" D'Artagnan asked in an access of pique. "You mentioned that name 2 or 3 times and I told you I did not know him." "Monsieur, you don't know the man at whose shutter you knocked?" Now, madam, you take me to be too credulous. Be honest." "Monsieur, he manufactured this story and invented this character in order to make me talk." "I am manufacturing and inventing nothing. I am speaking the naked truth. You say that a friend of yours lives in that house?" "I say and repeat for the 3rd time, a friend of mine lives in that house and his name is Aramis." "This misunderstanding will be cleared up later," the young woman murmured, "but for the present, monsieur, please be silent. If you could see plainly into my heart, you would discover so much curiosity that you would have pity on me and so much love that you would satisfy my curiosity at once. A woman has nothing to fear from the man who loves her." "You speak very suddenly of love," she objected, shaking her head. "That is because love has come upon me very suddenly, because I was never in love before and because I am only 19. The young woman eyed him shyly. "Listen to me, madam. I am already on the scent." D'Artagnan continued, 3 months ago I almost fought a duel with Aramis over a handkerchief like the one you showed the woman in his house. A handkerchief bearing the same crest? I am sure, monsieur, I assure you that you are wearying me with all this questioning. But you, madam, prudent as you are, just think, if you were to be arrested and that handkerchief seized, wouldn't you be compromised? In what way? The initials are mine, C.B., for Constance Benissux, or for Camille de Bois Tracy. Silence, monsieur. Once again, silence. If the dangers I myself face cannot stop you, think of those you are facing. I? Yes, you. By knowing me you are in danger of imprisonment or even of death. Then I refuse to leave you. Monsieur, the young woman implored, her hands clasped. Monsieur, in the name of heaven, on the honor of a soldier and the courtesy of a gentleman, please be off. Hark! Midnight is striking, the hour of my appointment. Madam, said D'Artagnan bowing, I cannot refuse a request couched in such terms. Be content, I will go my way. You won't follow me. You won't watch me. I shall go straight home. Ah, I was sure of it. I knew you were a gentleman, said Madame Benisucks, seizing her outstretched hand. D'Artagnan kissed it ardently. Then, with that naive brutality which women often prefer to the affectations of politeness, because it betrays the depths of a man's thoughts and establishes the triumph of feeling over reason, he murmured, "Ah, would to God I had never seen you." "Well, well, I will not say the same about you." Her voice was almost caressing and she squeezed the hand that still clung to hers. "What is lost today is not lost forever. Who knows? Some day I may be free to satisfy your curiosity. Will you promise the same to my love?" D'Artagnan asked, overcome with joy. "Oh, as to that, I will not commit myself. It depends on the feelings you may stir in me, so that today, madame, today, monsieur, my feelings do not go beyond gratitude." "You are too beautiful," D'Artagnan sighed, "and you take advantage of my love." "No, of your generosity. Pray believe me, monsieur, with certain people, everything works out well." "Oh, you have made me the happiest of mortals. Do not forget this evening. Do not forget your promise. Rest assured, in good time and at the proper place, I shall remember everything. And now go in heaven's name. I was expected promptly at midnight and I am late." 5 minutes late, yes, but in certain circumstances, 5 minutes are 5 centuries. To a person in love. "Who told you I was not meeting a lover this evening?" "A lover is waiting for you," D'Artagnan cried indignantly. "A lover? Oh dear. So the argument is to begin all over again?" She sighed, half smiling, half impatient. No, I'm off. I'm leaving. I believe in you and I wish to enjoy my devotion even were that devotion stupid. Farewell, madam, farewell." As if it required the most violent effort to make him release the hand he held in his, he sprang away from her and started running down the street while she rapped 3 times at regular intervals. When he reached the street corner, he turned around. The door had opened and shut again. The haberdasher's pretty wife had disappeared. D'Artagnan pursued his way. He had given his word not to watch Madame Benisucks, and his very life depended upon this visit of hers or upon the person who was to accompany her. D'Artagnan would nevertheless have returned home, because he had so promised. 5 minutes later he was in the Rue des Fossoyeurs. "Poor Athos," he muttered. "How can he possibly have guessed what all this is about? He probably fell asleep waiting for me, or else he went home to be informed that a woman had called there, a woman under his roof. Well, why not? Aramis certainly had a woman in his place. All this is very strange and I am most curious to know how it will end." "It will end badly, monsieur," said a voice which he recognized as Planchet's, soliloquizing as people so often will when they are preoccupied. D'Artagnan had turned into the alley that led to his staircase. "What do you mean, Bagley? Explain yourself." "Idiot, what has happened?" "All sorts of misfortunes." "What? To begin with, Monsieur Athos was arrested." "Arrested? Athos arrested? What for?" "He was found in your room. They mistook him for you." "Who arrested him?" "Guards brought by those men in black that you drove off." "Why didn't he give them his name? Why didn't he tell them he knew nothing about the whole business?" Planchet explained to his master that Athos had been careful to do no such thing. On the contrary, drawing Planchet aside, he had said, "Your master knows all about this. I know nothing. He needs his liberty. I don't need mine. The police will think they have arrested him. That should give him time. In 3 days, I shall tell them who I am and they will have to let me go." "Bravo, Athos, noble heart. How typical of him. But tell me, Planchet, what did the officers do?" "4 of them took him away I don't know where, either to the Bastille or to Fort Lulk. 2 stayed with the men in black, rummaging through everything and seizing all your papers. There were 2 more. While all this was going on, They were mounting guard at the door. When it was all over, they went away, leaving the house empty and wide open. And Porthos and Aramis, I could not reach them. They did not come, but they may still come at any moment. You left word that I was expecting them, eh? Yes, monsieur. Well, you sit tight here, Planquette, and don't budge. If they come, tell them what happened. The house may be watched. It's too dangerous to meet here. Tell them to wait for me at the sign of the fir cone. I am off to Monsieur de Treville's to inform him of all this. Then I will go to the tavern. Very good, monsieur. Mind you stay, Planquette. You're not afraid? Don't worry, monsieur, the lackey replied. You see, you don't really know me yet. I can be brave when I put my mind to it. That's the whole point, to put one's mind to it. Besides, I come from Picardy. You would rather be killed than quit your post? Yes, monsieur. There is nothing I would not do to prove my attachment to my master. Capital. D'Artagnan mused. Apparently I adopted the best possible method with this lad. I shall use it again on occasion. Then, fast as his legs could carry him, they were by now somewhat weary from their labors that day. D'Artagnan sped away toward the Rue du Vieux Colombier. Monsieur de Treville was not at his mansion. His company was on guard at the Louvre and he was with his company. D'Artagnan knew he must see the captain of Musketeers in order to inform him of developments. He must somehow try to enter the Louvre. Surely his uniform, identifying him as a guardsman in Monsieur Dessart's company, would serve him as passport. Following the Rue des Petits Augustins, he reached the quay and turned to the right in order to cross the Seine over the Pont Neuf. For a moment he had thought of taking the ferry, but, as he put his hand mechanically into his pocket, he noticed that he had not the wherewithal to pay his fare. As he reached the corner of the Rue Guénégaud, he saw two persons coming out of the Rue Dauphine, a man and a woman. Their appearance struck him and, as he looked carefully at them, he realized that the woman looked very much like Madame Benasux and her cavalier like Aramis. The woman still wore that black mantle which D'Artagnan could visualize outlined on the shutter of the Rue de Vaugirard and on the door of the Rue de la Harpe. The man wore the uniform of a musketeer. The woman's hood was pulled down over her ears and the man held a handkerchief up to his face. They took the bridge, which was also D'Artagnan's road since he was bound for the Louvre, several paces behind them. D'Artagnan had not gone 30 feet before he was convinced that the woman was Madame Benasux and the man Aramis, and, as his suspicions increased, a wave of jealousy swept across his heart. So he was betrayed both by his friend and by the woman whom he already cherished as a mistress. Madame Benasux had sworn to him by all the gods that she did not know Aramis, and a quarter of an hour later he found her arm in arm with the musketeer. D'Artagnan did not reflect that he had known the haberdasher's pretty wife for just 3 hours, that she owed him nothing more than a modicum of gratitude for saving her from the men in black, and that she had promised him nothing. He considered himself an outraged, betrayed, and ridiculed lover. The blood rushed to his face, anger possessed him, and he determined to unravel the mystery. The couple, noticing they were being followed, redoubled their speed. D'Artagnan sped forward, past them and then turned round so as to meet them squarely in front of the Samaritan in the lamplight. D'Artagnan stopped dead and they too halted before him. Then the musketeer stepped back and, "What do you want, monsieur?" he asked in a voice and with a foreign accent which immediately proved that D'Artagnan had been mistaken in one part of his conjectures. "It is not Aramis," he blurted. "No, monsieur, it is not Aramis. By your exclamation, I see you have mistaken me for someone else, and so I excuse you." "You excuse me?" "Yes," replied the stranger, "and since you have no business with me, kindly step aside and let me pass." "You are right, monsieur. My business is not with you but with Madame." "With Madame? But you do not know her." "I beg your pardon, monsieur. I know her very well." "Ah," Madame Benasux sighed reproachfully. I had your promise as a soldier and your word as a gentleman. I hoped I could rely on that. And I, madam, said D'Artagnan somewhat embarrassed. You had promised me. Please take my arm, madam, said the stranger, and let us go on. Meanwhile D'Artagnan, dazed, downcast and shocked, stood his ground. The musketeer advanced 2 steps and pushed D'Artagnan aside. D'Artagnan sprang backward and drew his sword. At the same time, swift as lightning, the stranger drew his. In the name of heaven, my lord, cried Madame Bonacieux, throwing herself between the combatants and seizing their swords. My lord, cried D'Artagnan, suddenly enlightened. My lord, I beg your pardon, monsieur, but can you possibly be my Lord Duke of Buckingham? Said Madame Bonacieux in an undertone. And now you may ruin us all. My lord, madam, I ask 100 pardons, but I love her, my lord, and I was jealous. You know what it is to love, my lord. Pray forgive me and tell me how I may risk my life to serve your grace. You are a worthy young man, said Buckingham, extending a hand which D'Artagnan pressed respectfully. You offer me your services and I accept them gladly. Follow us at a distance of 20 paces. If anyone shadows us, kill him. D'Artagnan allowed the Duke and Madame Bonacieux to take 20 steps ahead, then he followed, fully prepared to execute the orders given him by Charles I's minister. Happily, he found no opportunity to offer the Duke this proof of his devotion, for the young woman and the handsome musketeer entered the Louvre by the wicket near the Rue d'Olchel without any interference. D'Artagnan immediately repaired to the sign of the Faucon, where he found Porthos and Aramis waiting for him. As for the evening's adventures, he gave his friends no explanation other than that he had himself managed the affair for which he had summoned them. And now, carried away as we are by our narrative, we must leave our 3 friends to themselves and follow the Duke of Buckingham and his guide through the labyrinths of the Louvre. Chapter 12. George Villiers, Duke of Buckingham. Madame Bonacieux and the Duke entered the Louvre without difficulty, for she was known to be a servant of the Queen's household and he wore the uniform of Monsieur de Treville's Musketeers, who were on guard that evening. Moreover, Germain, the porter, was devoted to Her Majesty's interests. Were anything to go wrong, Madame Bonacieux would have to take the blame for introducing her lover into the Louvre. That was all. She assumed every risk. Her reputation would be ruined, of course, but what does the reputation of a haberdasher's wife amount to in a world inhabited by great personages? Once inside the courtyard, they followed the wall for about 25 paces until they came to a small door in the servants' quarters, open by day but usually closed at night. It yielded to Madame Bonacieux's pressure and they passed into utter darkness. Fortunately, the Ariadne of the moment knew all the turnings and windings of this part of the Louvre, assigned to servants of Her Majesty's household. Her hand in the Duke's hand, she tiptoed down passages, closed door after door behind her, groped her way through the dark, grasped a banister, felt with her foot for the bottom step and began to walk up a staircase. The Duke counted 2 stories. Then Madame Bonacieux turned to the right, followed a long corridor, descended a flight of stairs, went a few steps farther, introduced a key into a lock, opened a door, and pushed His Grace into an apartment lighted only by a night light. "You must wait here, my Lord Duke," she whispered. Then she went out by the same door which she locked from the outside, leaving her companion literally a prisoner. Alone as he was, Buckingham did not experience an instant of fear. Indeed, one of his most salient characteristics was his search for adventure, his love of romance. A brave, rash, enterprising man, he was not risking his life in this sort of affair for the first time. He had learned that the message from Anne of Austria, on the strength of which he had come to Paris, was a snare, but instead of returning to England, he had, abusing his present plight, warned the Queen that he refused to depart without seeing her. At first the queen would have none of it. Presently, fearing that the duke, exasperated, might commit some folly, she had consented reluctantly. In fact, she had planned to meet him and to urge his immediate departure on the evening of Madame Benisux's abduction. But since Madame Benissux was to fetch the duke and lead him into the royal presence, the interview had perforce to be postponed. For 2 days, as nobody knew what had become of the haberdasher's wife, everything remained in suspense. But once free again and in touch with Laporte, Madame Benissux was available to serve her royal mistress. Left alone in the small boudoir, Buckingham walked toward a mirror. His musketeer's uniform, fitting him perfectly, was most becoming to him. Now 35 years old, he passed rightfully for the handsomest gentleman and most gallant cavalier in France or England, the favorite of 2 kings, immensely rich, all-powerful in a realm with which he played merry havoc to gratify a woman then pacified to indulge a fancy. George Villiers, Duke of Buckingham, led one of those fabulous existences which have remained through the centuries to astound posterity. Self-confident, convinced of his own power, certain that the laws which bound other men could not possibly hamper him, he made straight for whatever goal he had set himself, even were it so lofty and splendid that another man must be insane even to contemplate it. Thus, having succeeded in approaching the beautiful and haughty Anne of Austria several times, he had won her love by dazzling her. George Villiers stood before the glass, running his fingers through his long fair hair to restore the curls which his hat had disordered. Then he whirled his mustache and, his heart swelling with joy and happiness and pride at being so close to the moment he had yearned for so long, he smiled with hope and confidence. Suddenly a door concealed in the tapestry opened and a woman appeared. Seeing this apparition in the mirror, Buckingham uttered a cry. It was the Queen, Anne of Austria, then 26 or 27 years of age, was at the height of her beauty. Her bearing was that of a queen or a goddess. Her eyes, sparkling like emeralds, were of matchless splendor yet filled with sweetness and majesty. Her mouth was small and rosy, and though her underlip, like that of all the princes of the House of Austria, protruded slightly, it was eminently gracious in her smile and profoundly haughty in her scorn. Her skin was much admired for its velvety softness. Her hands and arms, surprisingly white and delicate of texture, were celebrated by all the poets of the age, and her hair, very blonde in her youth, had turned to a warm chestnut, curled very simply and amply powdered. It framed her face so admirably that the most rigid critic could only have desired a little more rouge and the most exacting sculptor a nose somewhat more delicately chiseled. Buckingham stood before her, lost in awe of her beauty. Never had the Queen appeared to him so lovely at court balls, fetes and entertainments as she did in this moment, clad in a simple gown of white satin and accompanied by Doña Estefana, the only one of her Spanish duennas whom the king's jealousy or the cardinal's persecution had not banished from her side. The Queen took 2 steps forward. Buckingham threw himself at her feet. Before she could prevent him, he had kissed the hem of her gown. "My Lord Duke," said the Queen, "you must already know that I did not write to you." "I do, alas, a madman I, to dream that snow might melt and marble thaw. But what will you? Madam, a lover believes in love. My journey has not been in vain. At least I have seen you. You know very well, my lord, how and why I am here now. Indifferent to my anguish, you insisted on staying here at the risk of your life and the peril of my honor. I am here now to tell you that everything parts us, the depths of the seas, the enmity of kingdoms, the sanctity of oaths sworn. To struggle against such obstacles is sacrilege. My lord, I tell you we must never meet again. Speak on, madam, speak on. The warmth of your majesty's voice defeats the harshness of your words. You spoke of sacrilege, but surely such sacrilege lies solely in the separation of two hearts that were made for each other. My Lord Duke, you forget I never told you I loved you, but your Majesty never told me that you did not love me. To tell me this now would be an ingratitude too great on your Majesty's part. Oh, tell me, madam, where shall you, queen as you are, ever find a love like mine? A love which neither time nor absence nor despair can quench. A love content to thrive upon a lost ribbon, a stray glance, a random word. I first set eyes upon you, madam, 3 years ago, and ever since I have loved you nobly and ardently as I did that day. Shall I describe the gown you wore? Shall I cite each article of apparel that I remember? I see your Majesty as clearly now as I did then. You were seated, Spanish fashion, upon square cushions. You wore a green satin dress stitched with silver and gold. Your sleeves hung down caught by diamond clasps over your arms. Your beautiful arms. You wore a close ruff, a cap of the same color as your dress, and athwart your cap, a heron's feather. Ah, madam, I have but to close my eyes in order to see you just as you were then, and to open them again in order to find you as you are now, 100 times more beautiful. Foolish man, the queen murmured, too weak to find fault with a lover who had cherished her image so faithfully in his heart. Do not feed the flame of a vain passion with such memories. By what else shall I live, madam? What else have I but memories, which are my happiness, my treasure and my hope? Each time I have beheld your Majesty, it was as a new diamond which I enclosed in the casket of my heart. Here is the 4th jewel your Majesty has let fall from the heights where you dwell, and how avidly I gather it, only 4 times. Madam, the first which I have described. The second at the Hôtel de Chevreuse. The third in the gardens at Amiens. I beg you, my Lord Duke, never to speak of that evening, said the Queen, blushing. No, madam, on the contrary, let us speak of it always, for it was the most fortunate and radiant evening of my life. How soft the night, madam! Do you remember? How mild, how balmy the air and how blue the sky, studded with silver stars. That night, madam, I contrived to be alone with you for 1 instant. That night you were ready to tell me all the loneliness of your life and the sorrows of your heart. You leaned upon my arm, madam, upon this very arm. As I bowed my head I could feel your hair grazing my cheek, and each time it touched me, I trembled like a coward. You were a queen, my queen. Ah, you cannot know what divine felicity and what paradisiacal joy fill one such moment. Take my riches, my fortune, take my glory, take all the days I have yet to live. I would gladly exchange them for a moment like that moment, a night like that night. That night, madam, I dare swear it, that night your Majesty loved me, my lord, the beauty of the gardens, the spell of the evening, the fascination of your glance. Oh, the 1,001 circumstances that sometimes unite to destroy a woman. All these were heavy upon me that fatal evening. But you saw it, my lord, the queen come to the aid of the faltering woman. At the first word you dared speak, with the first word I mustered to answer your temerity, I called for help. True, madam, and any love but mine would have perished at this ordeal, but mine emerged more ardent, more eternal. You thought to escape me by returning to Paris. You believed I would not dare quit the treasure over which my master had appointed me to watch. But what did all the treasures of the world mean to me? And all the kings of the universe? A week later I was back again. Madam, that time you had nothing to say to me. I had risked my favor and my life to see you for a fleeting second. I did not even touch your hand, and you forgave me, seeing me so submissive and repentant. Yes. But as you well know, my lord, calumny pounced upon all these follies in which I took no part. The king, excited by the cardinal, made a terrible scene. Madame de Vernet was dismissed, Putange was exiled and Madame de Chevreuse fell into disgrace. And remember, my lord, when you sought to return as ambassador to France, His Majesty himself opposed it. That is why France is now about to pay for her king's refusal with a war. Now that I may no longer see you, madam, I can at least arrange to have news of me reach you day by day. What do you suppose lies behind my plans for the occupation of the Isle of Ré and for our league with the Protestants of La Rochelle? This, no more and no less, the pleasure of my seeing you. I cannot hope to fight my way to Paris, sword in hand. I know this all too well, but a war, madam, ends in a peace. A peace requires a negotiator. That negotiator might well be myself. Madam, no one would then dare to refuse me. So I shall return to Paris. I shall see you again. I shall savor a moment of ecstasy. Thousands of men, it is true, will lose their lives for my joy. But what matters so but I see your Majesty again? Is this folly, madam? Is it insanity? I dare not say. But tell me, madam, when did ever woman find a lover more deeply in love? When did ever queen find a servant more ardent? My lord, you call to your defense arguments that accuse you the more strongly. These proofs of love that you invoke are almost crimes. That is because you do not love me. Madam, if you loved me, how differently you would feel. If you loved me, oh, if but you loved me, I would be too happy. I would perish for very delight. The queen sighed. Your Majesty mentioned Madame de Chevreuse. Alas, she was less cruel than you, for Lord Holland loved her and she responded to his love. Madame de Chevreuse was not a queen, Anne of Austria replied, overcome, in spite of herself, by the depths of Buckingham's love. So you would love me, madam, were you not queen? Ah, tell me that you would love me. Let me believe that only the dignity of your rank makes you so cruel to me. Let me believe that were you Madame de Chevreuse, poor Buckingham might have hoped. I thank you, madam. I thank my beauteous sovereign 100-fold for her most gracious words. No, my lord, you misunderstand. You misconstrue my meaning? Madam, I find my happiness in illusion and error. I pray you mercifully to leave them me. You have told me I was drawn to Paris as, into a trap, which may cost me my life. God forbid. The Queen's terror revealed her interest in Buckingham more clearly than words could do. My lord, madam, I must tell you that for some time I have felt a strange presentiment. He smiled, at once melancholy and charming. Who shall say? I may die sooner than I imagine. But, my lord, I do not mention this, madam, to frighten you. Forget what I said. It was ridiculous. I take no heed of such dreams. But your words and the hope you have suggested would prove to be a royal wage for even my life. I too feel strange portents. I too dream dreams. I too, queen though I be, saw a vision. It was you, my lord, lying wounded on a couch, your blood flowing from your veins, in my left side. A knife wound? Yes, my lord, but who can have told you of it? It was but a dream which I confessed to God alone and in my prayers. I ask no more so but you tell me that you love me. Madam, if you do not love me, then why does God send the same dreams to us? Could we feel the same presentiments in common if our existences were not one? You love me, madam, and you will weep my death. Ah, God, be merciful to give me strength. I beg your grace to go. Whether I love you or not is another question, but I implore you, my lord, to depart. I shall not make myself privy to perjury. Take pity on me and go. If you were struck down here in France and I were held responsible for your death, I myself would die of grief. Pray go, monsieur, by your love, pray leave me. How beautiful your Majesty is in this supreme moment. How fervently your servant Buckingham worships you. Go, I beg you. You will come back later, as ambassador, as minister, surrounded by guards who will defend you and watch over you, then at least I shall have no cause to fear for your days, then I shall delight in seeing you. Shall I believe this? You must, my lord. Madam, let me beg as a token of your indulgence some object which comes from you. Something to prove to me that I am not dreaming. Something that you have worn on your person. Something I may wear in turn. A ring, a necklace, a chain. Will you leave if I give what you ask? Assuredly. At this very instant, you will quit France, you will return to England, I swear it. Wait then, wait, my lord. The queen went back to her apartment, returning almost at once with a small rosewood coffer, the royal and imperial coat of arms stamped upon it in gold. My lord, here is a gift by which to remember me. Buckingham took up the casket, fell to one knee. You promised me to leave, the queen reminded him. I shall be true to my word. Madam, your hand and I go. Her eyes closed. The queen offered him one hand, resting heavily with the other upon Doña Stefana. For she felt about to faint passionately. Buckingham pressed his lips to the queen's fingertips, then rose. If I am still alive within 6 months, he vowed, I shall see your majesty again though I upset the universe to do so. Then faithful to his promise, he stumbled from the room. Madame Benasux was awaiting him. With the same caution and the same luck they made their way successfully out of the Louvre. They made their way successfully out of the Louvre. They made their way